Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
At this meeting held in the high school auditorium is an open session of the Roseville Park Board of Education held under the Open Public Meetings Act of the State of New Jersey. Notice of this meeting was sent to the Star Ledger, Union Leader, and the Home News Tribune, the Borough Clerk, school offices, and district website. Roll call, please, Madam Secretary.
President Miller,
Here.
Vice President Harms,
Here.
Mr. Bowman, Mr. Cancino,
Here.
Mr. Girton, Ms. Powers, Mr. Sekou,
Here.
Mr. Signorella,
Here.
Mr. Vita.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Great, please stand for the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks for coming out on this rainy night. First off, we'll start with our first public participation portion of the evening tonight for agenda items only. If you'd like to speak on any agenda item, please come forward, state your name, address, and what agenda item you'd like to speak on. You'll have 3 minutes to make your statement. Seeing there is no one, we'll close the first public participation portion of the evening tonight and go on to the committee reports. Does anyone have a report they'd like to speak on? Mr. Vita, good evening.
Good evening. I got to sit with Christopher Hyde, our new IT guy, and we had a good discussion about the one-to-one initiative and several things that are happening there to continue to push our students into the 21st century learning that we're all trying to get to. We addressed a couple of different topics, one of them being the one-to-one initiative as it's being implemented in the middle school and the high school. As some parents are aware, we've had some issues with the laptops, particularly with screen breakage, and we have that failure rate has been as high as 50%. Now, whether or not that's due to being in the hands of middle schoolers or equipment that should not be in the hands of middle schoolers, Chris is trying to work out. But one of the things that he's done to address that issue is to take the screen repair part of it out of the hands of HP, the suppliers for computers, and bring that in-house. Now, that required a little bit of training. That is taking some time away from other stuff that needs to get done, but instead of a 2-week to 2-month lag time sometimes for those screens being replaced, by having to send them out and giving the students loaners, that replacement time is reduced to 1 day. They order the part, the new screen comes in, it's replaced in-house by the staff, so that keeps the equipment in the hands of the students who need them for what we're hoping is a continued push towards that 21st century learning. To that end, Chris had a lot of ideas in place for where we need to go in terms of integrating the equipment into the curriculum. We're going to have meetings with the curriculum committee to further outline how those programs are going to work. There are new math programs in place that are using more computer learning. We're also seeing more implementation of that in social studies and science. And as that curriculum gets implemented more, the work will go digital. There are new texts coming in, STEM curriculums, and things like that. With the computer teachers going to the elementary level classrooms now, there's more of a closer to 2-to-1 ratio of equipment to students to equipment, so that we can continue to build up that technological part of the curriculum. In terms of collaboration for teachers with other teachers and teachers with students, there are programs in place to further enhance that capability and continue again moving everybody towards that seamless experience where everybody can get online and share information, teaching tips between teachers, lessons and lesson plans between students. We have a Vanguard program in place where eager teachers that are more receptive to implementing that technology will be spreading that gospel and helping to educate the rest of the staff on how we can better implement that technology to keep moving forward. As you might know, Chris has only been here since December of last year. He picked up where Mike, who did a great job, left off, and my conversation with him was very reassuring that he's got a lot of good things in place. There's a lot of plans to make the things that are already in place better and keep us moving forward to where we need to be. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Vita. Anyone else?
Yes, Mr. President.
Mr. Cancino.
The Board Ops Committee met this past Tuesday, and we're looking at a few different policies that we want to implement. We're also putting in a few more policies per week so we can get through our very long list, so we can be as accurate as we can with New Jersey school boards. Also, the Roosevelt Park Marching Band is having their annual Tricky Tray. It's Saturday, June 3rd. It's $15 admissions. If you would like a flyer, I have a few up here with me. They're also hosting a bus trip to Atlantic City, the Resorts Hotel and Casino, Sunday, May 21st. It's $35 per person. You receive $25 back in a voucher from Resorts Casino to play. And the Casano Center is holding a Hispanic Heritage Festival. Sunday, May 7th, from 6 to 10. It is here at the high school. It is free. Free food will be from 6 to 7. There'll be a lot of dancing, music, and performances from various different groups from all over South and Central America. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cancino. Anyone else?
I have a report, Mr. President.
Mr. Sekou, good evening.
Good evening. The Curriculum Committee met on April 20th, 2017. We discussed curriculums and pacing guides being on the district's website. By September 2017, for parents to know what students will be learning the entire school year. We also discussed how high school teachers are connecting present-day issues with classical texts like Shakespeare's Julius Caesar. So students are not learning classical books in isolation. Teachers are using additional sources and technology to make readings relevant to the modern-day student. Also, teachers are connecting our novel-based high school English curriculum to PARC research, simulation, and literary analysis task questions. Lastly, as everyone here knows, whether with PARC, district initiatives like one-to-one, or in students' classrooms daily, technology integration is a major component in education today. So the Curriculum and Technology Committee, just like Mr. Vita mentioned, in the near future will have a meeting to discuss technology integration in the curriculum. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sekou.
Yes, Mr. President.
Mr. Arms.
Good evening.
Yes, at the last meeting, I mentioned that we were going to have some meetings to discuss the resolutions that we passed just last month. On May 2nd, there are going to be 2 meetings of 4 members of the board to discuss the resolutions and what the resolutions are about, which are the lights and the STEAM program. So just to let everybody know that we did schedule the meetings, and that will be on May 2nd in the board office. This would be just it's going to be just a kind of a committee meeting, so there'll be only 4 members present.
Thank you, Mr. Arms. And then there'll be further discussion at a board meeting for the public.
I think on May 4th, is it our next meeting in May? No, 9th. May 9th, there will be a presentation from the architect on the actual costs of each project. Well, actually, I'm sorry, there'll be only, the architect will be discussing the STEAM program, okay, what the buildings, what the rooms would be. He might also, or the superintendent will have some numbers on the cost of what it would be to furnish it. And then at that time, basically I can give a short presentation on what it would cost for the lights. We have that. We got many, we got 3 bids for it. We went to the lowest one, of course. So I can do that if the board allows.
Great. Thank you so much. And now we're on to the superintendent's report on 2017-2018 budget presentation. Good evening, Mr. Guido.
Good evening, Mr. Miller. Good evening, everyone. Tonight's portion of the superintendent's report is going to be set aside to address any questions with regard to the 2017-18 budget, which is going to be voted on by the Board of Education on the May 9th, 2017 meeting. So what I would like to do is ask Mrs. Gershow to please go up and present the budget. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome all of you to the official public budget hearing for the Roselle Park School District, which by law must be held within a certain window of time. The earliest date for this particular budget hearing could have been yesterday, April 24th. We're holding it on the second day possible, April 25th. I would first of all like to once again give many thanks to all of the administrators and the board members, in particular those people who are part of the Finance Committee, who have been working diligently for several months now, starting back in December, to put together the 17-18 school budget. Administrators begin working on a budget back in December. All of the building principals, directors, superintendent, myself put together information for each component and compile that together. Initially, when all of those figures were put together, we realized that the budget was much higher than we would like to see it. So all of the administration went back to the drawing board, and fortunately we were able to pare that budget by $177,000, bringing it to the budget that was presented to the Finance Committee at our first meeting on January 30th. Finance Committee reviewed, gave their input to the budget, and we had to patiently wait for the most important component on the revenue side, and that was the release of the state aid figures, since almost half of our, well, about a third of our revenue does come from state aid. Those figures were not released until March 2nd. And once we had those figures, we were then able to quickly finalize what would be in our presentation. We held a public budget workshop on March 7th to obtain input from the community. Unfortunately, there were only a handful of community members at that meeting to provide input. Finance Committee continued working together and finalized the figures that were presented on March 16th when we needed to, by law, adopt a tentative budget. Because that budget had to be forwarded to the county office, and it was done so on March 19th. There was a deadline for that. County office peruses through all of that documentation, and the district received full county approval for that tentative budget on March 31st. Which brings us to tonight, where we're finally allowed to hold the official public hearing on the budget so that we can continue to follow the necessary deadline. All school districts must submit and adopt a final budget by May 12th, and we're hoping after tonight's hearing, the board can finalize our figures and hopefully adopt a budget on May 9th at our next board meeting. Once again, it comes as no surprise that the largest portion of any public school district's budget is comprised of salaries of the staff and all of the health benefits that go along with that. Other large items are the employer's share of FICA, Medicare, PERS, unemployment, out-of-district tuition, our debt service payment, the grants that we receive, and utilities. Here you see a comparison of the 4 recent years. The tentative budget that's proposed on the expenditure side for 17-18, the budget that was currently in existence for 16-17, and the 2 previous budgets. As you compare each of the columns, you'll see that most of the columns stay relatively in the same area. A few things had some more significant changes. Of course, salaries went up due to the negotiated collective bargaining agreement. Each current staff member is placed in what's known as a position control roster, which has to be presented to the county office, that indicates what their salary will be next year according to that already negotiated collective bargaining agreement. Health benefits do change year to year. We had some significant change when we previously negotiated a change in health benefits, and in this case it actually helped lower the health benefit cost. Tuition costs for students sent out of district, which we are fully obligated by law to do so. Some of those are special ed students, some of those are regular ed students, are another cost that continues to increase each year. We've had some significant changes in the area of related and extraordinary services as a result of students' IEPs, special ed students. By law, we are required to provide the services within those contracts. and some of those costs have been increasing. We have mentioned at previous presentations that we are proposing in this budget an additional lease purchase, which would add to the budget that $100,000 payment. But that $100,000 payment will allow us to go out and purchase $400,000 worth of textbooks, computers, furniture, and other kind of technology equipment, such as one example would be smartboards. Unfortunately, another area that has continued to increase is our legal costs, and that is not a function of the hourly rate that our attorney charges, because they have been charging the same exact hourly rate for 10 years, and I think last year, finally, after 10 years, they increased it by $5 an hour, but there are many other factors that are causing those legal costs to increase. On the revenue side, you can see the proposed list of items. The local tax levy is proposed to increase by approximately $480,000. Our tuition that we take in will decrease slightly, and most of the other revenue streams remain somewhat stagnant. In particular, state aid is remaining flat, not $1 more than we received last year. Our excess surplus at the end of the 2016 school year was a bit larger, and that will help offset some costs. The project that we have planned at the middle school, replacement of part of the roof there, will be fully covered through capital and maintenance reserve. And just to mention that tax levy stays within the 2% tax levy cap allowed by law, therefore does not require us to put out a question to the public to approve this budget. State aid, everyone's aware of from reading newspaper articles. The largest amount of state aid Roselle Park received was 8 years ago, back in 2009. And as of the upcoming school year, 17-18, we will still not reach that same figure. As you can see, the state aid is remaining somewhat flat, exactly the same as last year, and that's about $120,000 less than the state aid we received back in 2009. Next slide shows 13 years, what the general fund tax levy was in each of those years, what the debt service tax levy was for the previous referendum project, which put additions on 4 of our school buildings. We're still continuing to pay those fees. You can see next year the debt service tax drops slightly, $450. The good news is in the following years it will continue to go down each year, and once again the final payment on that debt service will be February of 2025. And the column at the far right shows the sum of those two figures. each of those years. What is the impact on the tax? After consulting with Ken Bloom, the Borough Chief Financial Officer, getting the latest net valuation taxable amount, which once again decreased in Roselle Park. We were able to compute the tax points for the school district budget. And in this chart, the average home valued at $253,000 will have an increase for the year of $132.69 as a result of this proposed budget.
Thank you, Mrs. Gershel, and I would like to thank Mrs. Gershel for her hard work and fiscally responsible when she develops the annual budget, but also keeps in mind that we want to have a budget that continues to enhance student learning. We have made progress over the last 3 years. We want to continue to do that. And as you heard from the committee reports, technology is a big part of this continued progress. We began a one-to-one initiative at the middle school 2 years ago. This is the first year for high school. We are working together as a technology department and the curriculum department to make sure that our students get the best possible instruction that will help them learn in the 21st century and beyond. So I want to thank the committees as well that are coming together to help us in reach our goals there. So one-to-one initiative continues to be a big part of our instruction. Interactive technology devices, Mrs. Gershel mentioned smartboards. We know that with new digital materials, interactive boards is a big part of it. As you heard at the presentation at the last meeting with Mr. Salvo, that we are purchasing a new math curriculum, K-5, that it's a huge digital component to it. So we want to make sure that the technology is ready to enhance that curriculum. You've heard Mr. Harms mention that we will be presenting at the next meeting the possibility of STEAM labs. If you talk now to any educational expert, STEM and STEAM has become a big part of 21st century learning. We're exploring ways to fund it. We're exploring the interaction between science, math, engineering, art, and technology to make this all come together for our students. So we're hoping to go to the high school until the middle school and put together STEAM labs that will help that goal. Internet-based curriculum, science. We're looking at new generation science materials that will assist students through inquiry-based learning. So we're looking at that. Additional laptops, iPads in elementary school. We have a one-to-one initiative now in both the middle and the high school. We wanted to bring it down to the elementary, now one-to-one, with the possibility of a 2-to-1 ratio. So technology has become a major part of our instruction here at Roselle Park. Our curriculum, obviously, without a good curriculum, we cannot teach our students, and our students will not get the best instruction possible. As I mentioned before in the presentation from Mr. Salvo, we have a new math curriculum coming in 2017-2018 that we're very excited about. We're working to improve math scores, to improve math instruction. Staff development, it's key to making sure that the students receive the best instruction. Not only have we put together professional learning communities where the staff now shares ideas about good teaching practices, but we also are using our teacher leaders to go into the classroom and work with teachers on things and areas of expertise so they can share it with other staff members. So we're being not only productive, but we're being creative when we look at staff development. And that is actually fiscally responsible because we're not sending as many teachers or staff members out to get the professional development at a high cost. We're bringing them in and we're tapping into their resources. Next, new next generation science resources. As I mentioned before, Mr. Salvo is looking to inquiry-based science materials, which is something that will work well with our technology initiative. And this is our third, actually fourth year in our balanced literacy program, and we are seeing great improvement, marked improvement in our reading and writing in our students. So we will continue to look for resources that will help that initiative. And then, of course, facilities is a big part. Students cannot learn if they don't have the facilities and the proper furniture for the buildings. So we're looking to refurbish the high school media center and the library. Actually, this is a student-driven initiative, and we're looking to make it more like a makerspace type of area for the students to go in, do inquiry-based learning, and do the research in the library, the media center, using technology. We're looking, as Ms. Gershel said, with the lease purchase, we have a plan annually to replace furniture where it's needed. Some of the furniture is aging, and our students need to have the furniture to make sure that they feel comfortable in the classrooms. We're purchasing a new generator. As a matter of fact, one of the generators that we just purchased came in handy not too long ago in one of our elementary schools. So that's something that we're always looking to do. If the electricity goes out, we can provide electricity in these buildings. As you know, we are looking, or we already are plans to replace partial of the middle school roof. Over the last few years, we have seen that the middle school roof is leaking badly into classrooms and into areas that makes the walls and makes the environment actually unsafe. So we have had capital reserve funding. It's not going into the general operation budget from capital reserve to do that project. We want to refurbish the lockers at the middle school and the high school. They are old and they really need replacement. If you walk through them, students, it just doesn't look good for our students. And as you know already, we have plans to move our preschool classes into our elementary schools. We announced that at the last meeting, where the plans are ongoing to use kindergarten classrooms for preschool classes in 2 of the 3 buildings, and the media center for the other elementary building. So we are looking at that as a temporary home for the preschool students, with plans in the future to look for a more permanent home for our students. So, but that will save the district, and at the same time will create a safe, secure, and obviously a very good instructional space for preschool students. We are planning to move in by the end of June and be ready by September for our students. So as you can see, even though we have been very responsible in terms of the development of the budget, we still have plans to do the right things for our students in terms of technology, our curriculum, and the facilities. And again, I want to thank the board for supporting our plans. And now, if anybody would like to ask any questions or has any comments, please come up. We'll go right back up to the front, and we'll take any questions that you have. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Jacob Madera, 6 Pro Sheridan Avenue, Roselle Park. Ladies and gentlemen in the audience, viewing audience, members of the board, good evening. There are 4 people present on a $35 million budget. A little on the light side. Does that roof leak when it's not raining?
Sometimes it does, Jake, believe it or not.
Pedro, I'll take your word for it. Negotiated CBA increase, that page. Rent legal settlement. Will you please explain that? $200,000.
As was announced at previous board meetings, the board reached a legal settlement like a month ago, and that was done at a board meeting. Part of that settlement agreement required a payment in this school year. That payment was already made. It requires an additional set of payments next school year, 17-18, for a total of $200,000 in that particular school year, hence that line item that you're questioning. And it requires one additional payment, set of payments the following school year, 18-19, totaling $100,000. So when the public presentation is done next year, you will see a similar line item. You can expect to see that for $100,000. And again, all of that is the result of a legal settlement that was approved and announced at a previous board meeting.
Would you please explain what settlement?
It was the result of a lawsuit involving the board and an entity called 430 Westfield Avenue.
And what was that about?
It was a contract dispute.
Who else was involved besides the board?
Those were the only 2 parties to the case.
Was the former superintendent involved?
There was only 2 parties to the case, so there were not any other individuals named as a party in the matter.
What is the cost to send students to Scotch Plains?
The tuition for one student is $6,000 per year. And also the cost of transportation.
How much does it cost for one child by being in school here?
The average tuition rate varies depending upon the grade level.
What grade? Give me a similar $6,000 grade level over at Scotch Plains.
A per pupil cost, it depends, of course. High school is the most expensive. Kindergarten rate is the lowest, and it fluctuates in between. Those figures, by the way, will be given to the precise dollar amount at an upcoming board meeting. We do that every year annually. Pretty sure it's either May or June, so you'll get those answers to the dollar in an upcoming board meeting. I don't want to cite a figure that's off. They range between 10,000 and 13,000, but again, the exact figures will be given at a board meeting in the near future. We do that by law every year. And you'll see it in the agenda.
From what I understand, going to Scotch Plains, it costs less to educate a child, plus the transportation, than it is a 10th grade or 12th grade child, student in Roselle Park.
I'm not sure how you're arriving at that, because in addition to the tuition that, for example, a Roselle Park, a Kenilworth, a Cranford would pay to send their student to the Scotch Plains campus, the Union County School District also receives state aid. So the cost per student really is not $6,000. The cost per student is a combination of what the sending districts pay plus the state aid given to the county schools. Just like Roselle Park's cost per student is a combination of the state aid we receive and the taxpayer dollars that we receive, gives us our total revenue source that arrives at the tuition rate per student. So you can't jump from the $6,000 tuition fee that we pay to the final cost there at the county. I don't have those figures, but I'm sure you could research and find out what the average cost per student would be at the county school system.
If you personally were to research this, where would you start?
Looking at their budget, which hopefully would be posted online, just like Roselle Park's budget must be posted online within the next 48 hours.
Then would you please find out from the county what it costs for a student to go into Scotch Plains and what it costs in Roselle Park? Thank you.
Anyone here could do that, yes.
Really?
It's public information.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Salt Cures on 150 Berwyn Street. Just because I just never asked. It's from the new generator. Where is it going to be?
I'm sorry.
The new generator.
One of the elementary
Oh,
schools.
no. The one that is going to be replaced next is here at the high school.
And that's what's in this budget.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So, one of the line items has the rent of the ECC classrooms at $144,000. Since we're not going to have that $144,000, I presume that money's going to go to renovating and accommodating. So, is it going to be around $144,000 to do all that, or?
We don't know the exact cost yet. We do know that this new plan will involve purchasing and getting installed playgrounds at Sherman School and one at Robert Gordon, because by law preschool must have playground equipment, and we currently do not have that at either of those elementary schools. So those are two rather large costs, but that $144,000 line item will certainly cover that. We do know that we need to do some construction work, moving of walls, renovating some bathrooms, so there will be costs involved there. So a number of items to get those rooms ready. So what the final amount will be, we don't know yet at this point in time, but we're comfortable in knowing that that 144,000 will be sufficient.
And plus, presumably, it'll be a one-time cost, right?
Correct.
Minus other, the annual costs, and then
Correct.
this line item will basically go away.
Should disappear next year, yes.
And just presumably, so, and correct me if I'm incorrect, so let's say, so the partial roof replacement was budgeted at 600,000, it came about 530. So would money be, so suppose it came out to 150,000, let's say, to make playgrounds. By the way, where would there be a playground on Sherman? There's no grass.
You don't have to put it on grass
Okay.
because you have to, there's certain.
Oh, that little, the material?
Right,
Okay.
and that can be, we've already had people in looking, we have spots located at both Robert Gordon and Sherman, and that material can be placed on either grass or on asphalt, so we'll be fine.
So like money from that would be, the budget would be adjusted to accommodate any costs that may go over that, if they do that 144,000.
Yeah.
So let me show it here. So the STEAM classrooms, in discussion of the last, actually, my other question was, which of these lease purchases is the one-to-one initiative? 1, 2, 3, or 4? I think it's 4, right?
2 of them. The most recent, I did not bring that notation with me, but one of these was the recent one-to-one initiative for the high school.
Right.
And
I think
quickly
4 is the new one,
looking,
right?
it would be the one that's listed here for 125,000.
Right.
Since
been
that's the
started.
newest one.
Right.
That allowed us to do the one-to-one initiative at the high school because we had to purchase 675 laptops. The previous one, which most likely would then be the one listed above, the one for roughly $105,000, was the one that allowed us to do the one-to-one initiative at the middle school the previous year.
Okay.
And then the new one we're proposing is going to allow us to bring a lot more technology to the elementary buildings.
Thank you. I know it may be too late for this budget, but in line with what Mr. Vita said, is that whole repair part of our maintenance contract with HP? In other words, is it part of this cost? So suppose it breaks, does HP repair it as part of a contract that we have with them, or is it per unit?
We had insurance with HP that allowed us to previously send them out to get repaired, assuming that the parent purchased
the insurance.
insurance.
So now that we're not going to be doing that anymore, has anyone calculated what the cost savings will be? If there is any, I guess.
Well, the parents will still be required to purchase insurance next year, the year after.
So it's an individual
Yes.
with
Yes. Because they're,
HP. There's nothing in the contract that states HP will provide this at no cost.
no.
Okay. So it
It's
doesn't impact.
insurance, just
Okay.
like automobile. I give a simple example always of like automobile insurance. If you don't have insurance and your car gets wrecked, you have to pay for it completely out of your own pocket. This insurance, if the laptop is destroyed, the insurance covers the cost. Otherwise, the parent has to pay the cost of
I
it.
just wanted to make sure that the contract that we're paying for that didn't include that. So you're saying it's a per individual basis.
Yes.
And then my other question was, and just for reference, so let's suppose that the 3 major projects. Oh, actually, how much was the lowest bid for the lights since they came in?
Well, we have not officially gone out to bid yet.
Oh,
We have received quotes, estimates.
Gotcha.
If the board decides, and that decision has not been made yet, to go forward with the project, then the architect will put together specifications for the project. It will have to go out for formal bid, and then at that time, all of that information would be disclosed to the public
But that would be in next year's budget, correct?
in a future budget, yes.
Oh, correct, in the future. So the only one that we did go out for bid was the roof replacement at the middle school. And that's
Correct.
included.
Mhm.
Okay. And just generally, how many employees does the district, just a general number?
How many do we employ September through June? Approximately 350 employees. Of course, we do have a number of summer employees,
Right, thank you very much.
but I think you want the basic
Thank you.
September through June.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mrs. Garcia, and thank you, Mr. Garrido, for another well-done public presentation of our budget, proposed budget that we'll be voting on May 9th. And I thank the audience for their questions. And now we're going to go on to policy, where I'd like someone to make a motion to approve agenda items 1 through 13. 1, 2, 3, and 4, district policy second readings of 5131.1, 5131.5, 5131.7, and 6142.4. Number 5 is the district policy second reading and adoption, 6171.4, and 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13 are all first readings. That would be 2210, 2240, 2255, 3000/3010, 3280, 3320, 3451, and finally 4112.2. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Cancino, second. Mr. Signorello, any questions or comments? Again, thank you, Mr. Cancino, for getting more of these on the agenda. Roll call, please, Madam Secretary.
Vice President Harms,
Yes?
Mr. Bowman, Mr. Cancino,
Yes.
Mr. Gerton,
Yes.
Ms. Powers, Mr. Sekou,
Yes.
Mr. Signorello,
Yes.
Mr. Vita,
Yes.
President Miller.
Yes.
On roll call, motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. And now we're on to personnel, where I'd like someone to make a motion to approve agenda items 14 through 17, 14 being district substitutes, 15 being maternity leave of absence request, 16 being another maternity leave of absence request, and 17 being a change of assignment. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion.
Mr. Signorello, second.
I'll second.
Mr. Vita, any questions or comments? I wish Ms. Bennett and Mrs. O'Gara well on their leave. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Vice President Harms,
Yes?
Mr. Bowman, Mr. Cancino,
Yes.
Mr. Gerton,
Yes.
Ms. Powers, Mr. Sekou,
Yes.
Mr. Signorello,
Yes.
Mr. Vita,
Yes.
President Miller.
Yes.
On roll call, motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. And now we're on to education, where I'd like someone to make a motion to approve agenda items 18 through 21. 18 being education program, 19 being harassment, intimidation, bullying incidents, 20 being the 2017-2018 school calendar revision, and 21 being bus evacuation drills. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Harms, second. Mr. Signorello, any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Those items are passed. Finally, we're on to business, where I'd like someone to make a motion to approve agenda items 22 through 25. 22 being monthly certification, 23 being approval of transfers, 24 being approval of bills, and 25 being use of buildings and grounds. Do there a motion?
President, I have a question on 25, if
25, sure.
I may.
Wait, let's see, do the motion, do you have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Arm, second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Cancino. Are there any questions or comments?
I have a question on 25C. Is this something in practice the district does, loan it, rent it to a organization? This is, I did notice it over the weekend, but I have a question. Is this something
Charging?
As you see at the very top of item number 25, it does indicate that appropriate fees to be charged where applicable. So yes, you're absolutely correct. Item C, there would be rental costs, custodial overtime costs that must be paid to the district if this is approved.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Those items are passed. And now on to new business. Does anyone have new business they'd like to speak on?
Yes. Have some new business.
Mr. Signorelli.
I'd like to compliment the policy committee on the updates. And I'd like to see if it suggests some policies being introduced. I guess one is, do we have, should we have, or do we need a policy on our summer camp? I don't see one. I looked in the policy on the website today, and I'm curious if it's necessary. I've been doing a little digging, question, I called the DOE, and I was informed, again, just an informal statement to me that your district should have it. So that being said, I think it would help us in the future, down the road, maybe next year, having a policy.
Mr. Signorello, as of right now, I do not believe we have a policy for the summer camp, but I can look into it, and I will get back to you as soon as I can.
Let me ask you, do we consider, excuse me, do we consider that summer camp a subcontractor? Because it, Mrs.
No,
Garcia?
it's an enterprise fund.
Okay.
Just like food service is an enterprise fund, so it pays for itself.
There is some policies in there that deal with enterprise funds, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, but I think the request is on the table to have the policy, by Mr. Signorello, to have a specific policy for the summer camp as a subset of that enterprise policy.
Understood, and I believe Mr. Cancino, who's chairperson of board operations, has just mentioned that he plans on researching that with his committee and proceeding as, and will proceed as necessary.
Thank you.
With Mr. Signorello's question, I just need some clarification. What, a policy to do what? When Mr. Cancino go in and look at the policy, what is he exactly looking for or looking to add?
You want my opinion or what I'm looking for?
Yes.
I guess, how do we hire? Should be an org chart. Do we nominate or hire someone yearly? Is it year-to-year hire? Who that directors, again, who do they report to? That's just some of the questions I'm asking and looking for. I think it would really help this organization, maybe not today, tomorrow, but definitely in the future for board members 10, 20 years from now, a year from now. Something to go to and look, how do we hire, how do we go about hiring directors and counselors? We have nothing. I don't see nothing. Like I said, somehow or another we could start it. I can only bring an example to fire department involvement, we have a guideline for everything. How do we train and how do we promote and vote for a fire chief? It's all black and white, so we can give us a guideline. It used to be policy, procedure, now it's changed to guideline. So the district, school district, we have policy. I'd like to see a policy to make things go smoother for this organization. It could be a work in progress document. It could be something in black and white, and then we could review it a year from now. That's my opinion.
Thank you.
I will surely look into that and I will get back to you hopefully by next Tuesday.
Thank you, Mr. Consino. Mr. Cinerello. Anyone else?
Just real quick, I did notice, Mr. President, that U.S. News and World Report came out with a 25 best high schools in New Jersey, and from their ranking, maybe 4 schools from Union County are there. And as we move forward and as we plan and as we try to go forward, we just try to put the best policies in place, policies or directives in place, so that one day Roosevelt Park High School can also be on that list.
Second that motion.
Thank you, Mrs. Aker. And also, this past weekend was opening season on another note for our children, for the Roosevelt Park Youth Baseball and Softball League. And I was in attendance there, as was Mr. Majera as well. And just wanted to point out that one of our board members was given a well-earned certificate, and that would be Mr. Lauren Harms, for his 20-plus years of service to the baseball league. He was there when his son Bobby was young, and now he's doing he did a second tour with his grandchildren, and but Lauren, it just shows you that, I mean, he's a multiple threat here, not just Board of Ed, but also in recreational sports. So great job, Lauren. We're proud of you, and thank you for all that you do for Roosevelt Park.
Mr. President, I have something else. I don't know. Sure. I'm supposed to bring this up in the committees, but I attended the Roosevelt Park PTA meeting last night. And I guess they got a couple of good things going on there. And one of the questions was last night about the lights. And I gave a little update on the lights and steam. And somebody asked me, where's the A? The A comes from arts. So progress in that, and I told them we'll have something coming up in the next 2 weeks. And then Friday night, I attended, Mr. Holmes attended, I don't know if the other board, I didn't see, but it was the East-West game. And unfortunately, I guess because there was a snow delay, it wasn't well attended, but it was fun. I think the other team won for the first time. The West won? The West won? West won. They haven't won in a couple of years. So
it's nice to share.
Yeah, it was small attendance, and there was a lot of people at home who took some leave that night.
Did you have to suit up?
No, I didn't. No, I didn't do it. The first baseball would have taken me out. I'm done with my
Great, thank you, Mrs. Signorelli. And now we'll move on to a public participation portion of the evening tonight for our second public participation, actually our third. For anything you'd like to speak on, please come forward, state your name, address, and you'll get approximately 3 minutes for your statement. Would you so resolve?
Does this machine have to be on?
No,
The projector?
you mean the projector? I'll try.
That's to cool down the lamps.
let's go down. There you go.
Jacob Miguel, 612 Sheridan Avenue, Roselle Park. I'd like to direct this to...
Jake, I don't think Jake.
Jake, speak into the
Jake,
microphone,
I don't think
please.
it's on. It's not on.
Hello.
Is it on?
Good, good.
Thank you. I'd like to direct this question to Board Member Signorella. Update on the trees in the grove behind it.
Branches, I haven't seen. I sent a verbal conversation, Mr. Jacob, yeah. Tom Majera told me there's a big branch in what we used to call the old grove. I don't know if it was removed by today. Yeah. It wasn't in a dangerous position, but Mr. Majera's asked me that there was a couple of branches, plus he's thinking maybe some trimming could be done in our grove, and I concur. So I don't have an update report from you.
Thank you. Mr. Guarrido, Plan B, by moving the children from early childhood from Laurel Avenue into the school population. You have Plan C?
No, Jake, that's our final plan.
Thank you, Pedro. I had asked Board Member Arms, where did the bleachers come from? And he went on a litany of story and $40,000 that they had found in the municipal budget, or when they had done remediation of the Little League fields. We only went down half the way to save $1 million.
Mr. Majera, can you just speak up a little? I apologize. I can't.
You can't hear me?
No.
I have my hearing aids on. You want to borrow one?
I'm sorry, I'd rather give you my undivided attention, but I can't hear you.
Would you please explain, not right now, but when I sit down, you can explain. As I only had a few minutes. How we came about and the legality of bleachers being handicap accessible. As we discussed, and I told him it was a good explanation. And a good spending of $40,000.
No, that's the time.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Madera.
I thought it was, okay, I'll speak now. No, that's your time, Jake.
I spent 60 cents to make copies to you folks, which is closed sessions throughout the state. And it gives more description than you folks do here.
The executive closed session.
That's from the borough of Roselle Park. And it's closed session items. They don't just have the number as as I had mentioned many times before, can you give more of an explanation as to what your closed session is about, instead of personal or patsy-patsy? Thank you.
Real quick, Mr. Majero, the explanation on the bleachers across the street, the rule or the law is anything above 3 feet has to be protected on 3 sides with a fence or bars. You can't be able to put your feet through it on either side or in the back. It has to be so it doesn't tip over, so somebody leans against it and fall off. These are handicap accessible. They can sit wheelchairs in front of it. That was just part of the way it was. And you also asked about our bleachers on handicap. You only need one set of bleachers that has that's accessible for the handicap, which you do have it on the home side, whether the person wants to sit there on the home side or not, but we do have it. We are legal over there because it's on 3 sides. I know several times you've asked in the past about putting a walkway going up. There is one in the middle. If you look at the middle, there's one steps that are narrow that walk up on it. You also asked about having handrails going up on it. I'm not sure how safe that is to have the handrails in between there. But the cost of to take out these sections and then put other smaller section in, you just can't take it and cut it. It's, it has to be approved by a reputable company to do that. So I'm not sure what the cost would be for that. I mean, we can check it out if I can ask Ms. Gershio to ask our supervisor of the maintenance to take a look at that and see what we can do. But that's how we got it, and we got it, the money that was left over from when they did the fields over there, and it was for the safety of the children, and that's why we got it, because we were out of compliance with our bleachers over there.
Thank you, Mr. Harms. Anyone else for public comment?
Jen School at 830 Chestnut Street. Sorry, I was running over from the wrestling dinner. I just wanted to check in. I was going through the policy because I guess there's been a lot of changes lately. And one of the ones that I noticed was on admissions that were changing or have changed the date of the children being admitted into the programs here at this public school. That we've gone from an October 31st or November 1st deadline through to they have to be 5 before October 1st. My question being is, we have a lot of kids that are coming out of a preschool program, and does this take effect for the 2017-2018 year? Or is this something that we could possibly talk to? Because I am sure parents coming out of the preschool programs are all assuming that their children right up to November 1st are welcome in the program, and now all of a sudden we're changing it midway. Do you want to?
No. Yes. No, I'm looking. Yes, no, thank you. I do have it. This will, due to the fact that we have registration today, we did not advertise it, will come into effect the 2018-2019 school year. We'll put it out as a new policy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, that's good. And maybe, and it's just something that I noticed in changing, and I've got to say with the new policy changes, really impressed with the highlighting. But my only question is maybe we can put a rationale in so people understand why we're changing things and just not changing them because we, and the assumption being, hold on, the assumption being that we feel like it. I know a lot of it's law, but a lot of times if you can give it a rationale.
We've done it, we do it each time. Yeah, we have it in there, and Mr. Casino always says that we've changed it to the, pardon?
No, go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
No, yeah, what The policy revisions that we received it from New Jersey school boards, and they're driven by changes in codes, in statute in the state, and that's where the changes have come from. So that legally we had to, so that's the rationale really, to make those changes.
I'm not being argumentative, so please understand. What I'm saying is, like, for example, this one. We changed the policy, I thought it was at this meeting, it was probably at the last meeting. And you're right, it wasn't advertised, things happen, I get it. But as a parent, I can read and see that it says New Jersey State Board's recommendations, these are the changes. But sometimes people don't see it, and at a meeting, not all the time do we discuss it. We pass a whole grouping without the rationale being there. So sometimes people just need to know, like, take a minute, and I get it, it's not.
Okay, have some people come here and we can go through all of that, really.
I'm really sorry you feel that way.
No, but I mean, I think Mr. Harms meant, if they have questions, they can come to the board meeting, or also call the board office as well.
I
The
don't
rationale.
mean to be rude, but that's
not, I'm just saying,
it's not fair. I understand where you're coming from, people don't come here. But all I'm saying is it's my opinion and my feeling.
Okay,
And
I apologize. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. School.
Mr. President, with this policy change, we voted on it, and it is a recommendation. Is there any way we can revisit this? The changing from October 1st to October 30, changing from October 31st to October 1st.
Why?
Because
So we're not impacting this school year, right?
it's going to be next school year.
No, not this incoming, the one 2 years.
Yes.
Right. It's going to be the following school year.
Not the upcoming.
Right, I get that. I guess in 2 years, basically. Right, but this is, so I think Ms. Jacksula, and forgive me if I'm pronouncing her name, I think she raised a good point that I know I didn't take in consideration, and we go through these policies, and a lot of times we don't take the time to see the impact or the different things that will be affected. And she raised a good point. So I am saying that if this is something that we can look into further, that's what I am recommending. Because for me, I didn't take into consideration the preschool, because I voted for it, yes, I voted for it, but I didn't take into consideration what you said. So the why is, I am saying, why can't we look into this a little further to see if this is going to have a larger and negative impact on a certain population?
I don't know that we have to look into something if in fact we've already done it and the policy committee looked at it, and this is what the policy committee come up with, follow the same procedure as the rest of the state is doing. So what does Roselle Park, how does it affect us if it doesn't affect the students until 2 years from now?
But what about, because I know one of the things that parents always are happy for when I speak to them is that our date is later than other school districts. For instance, in my profession as a teacher, it is that October 1st date, but it cut off a lot of students that could go to school sooner. So instead of those students starting.
So no, okay, so if I went from October 1st to October 31st, or if I go from November 15th to November 31st, that means that, I mean, how many dates do you want to do? If I'm not mistaken, years and years ago, it was December 31st. It was December 31st, and it just wasn't.
And Mr. Secure, I think what we need to do also is check, because this might be a new code as well. Don't forget, New Jersey School Boards did a complete review.
Right.
So it may be October 1st, so we'll check it. We will review, we'll definitely report back at the next meeting. Certainly we'll do that.
So this was so I sit on that policy committee, so I'm talking to Kevin all the way down there.
Yep, I'm over here.
If I recall, this was a major revision and had to be addressed, right?
Yeah.
So.
Mr. Chiscola, can you please just give me the policy number so I can look?
It's 51.
One of the questions, and it was kind of answered, my question, and I should have said it, but I don't know was that were these policies taking effect immediately upon passing? Let me finish. Immediately upon passing, were they taking effect? And when I say all the policies, guess what I've been doing? Upon passing, the school year, meaning the fiscal school year, so starting July 1, 2017, or do they have another date in them, which I said the rationale, or are they starting like we just talked about, the one it's actually going to start this 18-19 year? Maybe that's what I should have said, where we need to put that in there so people realize that, because if I had a parent going in as a kindergartner, I'd be having a heart attack.
Got it. Yes.
Because that's an extra couple $1,000 a year. It's more than a couple $1,000 a year for daycare. Okay, that was it. So, thanks. I'm going back.
Okay, so as long as you know that, that's the reason. But you understand?
Yes.
Because someone stole from us. Understand? Someone stole. Okay. Saul appears in 150 Berwyn Street. You overcame with October 1st. Thank you very much, because that caused actually an issue where someone else in another school district had a relative who had the October 1st meeting and went in, tried to get free education or died, because we didn't have a uniform policy of October 1st. So whoever changed that to October 1st, thank you very much. As a matter of protocol, members Bowman and Powers did give reason?
Yes.
Thank you. At the last meeting, there was and I thank you again, I love the fact that people actually discuss these matters in open and mature fashion. And at the last one, we had a discussion regarding the 3 projects in communication, but in that, there was talk of an ad hoc committee that was going to be on the 18th. Did that take place? Okay, so I guess that's going to be, I'm sorry.
Yeah, yes, it did take place.
Okay, so that's going to be discussed at the meetings that are going to be set up with the other committees. And they're an advisory committee, right? Because that was stated, they're solely in an advisory capacity.
Correct. That's all
I guess this will be my final question, but in case I forget. Do any members have any concerns or questions regarding the budget? Just keep asking us, but do any of you have any questions or concerns? Regarding the ECC, there was sidewalk work that was done. Was that paid by the district?
Yes.
And that's because of the contract
The contract, the lease contract.
to make everything
Yes.
as when first moved in.
Yes.
I could open up the cost for that, right? Thanks. Have all board members filed their ethics disclosure forms for the year? I'm just asking because.
The answer is no.
Okay, please do. I asked it.
Going back for a second. Well, finish.
Okay, thanks. At the last meeting, there was a mention of the district report card, or is that going to be discussed at some future meeting?
Yeah, in the past I've done it in June, presentation, so I'll prepare and present it to the public.
Right. And just regarding policy 2210, I was reading that. I guess it allows for powers to the administrator. But it says, however, any administrative action by the superintendent shall not constitute official board policy. So does that mean that, so let's say you enact 2210, administratively way. So let's just say that you, Mr. Guido, as a superintendent, you go ahead and, for whatever reason, it's an emergency, it needed to be done immediately. Does this mean that the board could actually reverse that? Why is that wording in there, I guess I'm asking? Oh, agreed, sorry.
If you're asking about the yellow highlighted.
The highlighted
portion,
area, yes.
What it means is that it recognizes that it's an emergency situation, so it essentially won't constitute like practice going forward. So that action, okay, isn't going to set policy for the future. It's just for that instance.
Per case basis.
Correct.
And in closing, does any board member have any questions or concerns regarding this year's budget? Thank you.
Thank you, Saul.
Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. Gerton.
A couple of things. Saul, no, I haven't filed my disclosure. We're waiting for the tax to be done. So thank you for the reminder. I believe I have till Monday.
This one?
So number two is there was a comment about, I believe the member of the public asked, do we know the cost of the sidewalk repair over at the ECC? I don't know if, maybe we can clarify with the member of the public if we need the exact to the penny, or if we know a ballpark, because as I sit here and look at the budget, one of the line items is legal costs. I know we have legal costs with some of our Oprah, things that come into our office and some of our litigation, et cetera. I'm just wondering if it doesn't make everybody's life a little bit easier, and if we have a ballpark, if that would satisfy the public's question. And then the second thing is, I think, from my seat all the way down here at the end of the board, I will say to answer Mr. Kirsten's question around the budget and questions. Yeah, absolutely. I do have questions. I ask those questions. Some of them get answers that I agree 100% with, and others are answers I don't necessarily agree with. But I take it very seriously that you have to ask questions. You have to be an active member, whether you're on the finance committee or not. And I've challenged the finance committee, and I've challenged our business administrator, Mrs. Gershio, and actually I want to thank Mrs. Gershio. While the rest of the district was off on spring break, Mrs. Gershio was in the board office reviewing some of my budget questions. So just rest assured, I don't know if you want to go into detail, but rest assured, from my chair, it is being questioned. And thank you, Mrs. Gershio, again.
Thank you, Mr. Gerton.
Hello, Elizabeth Kirsten, 150 Berwyn Street. I'm assisting with a question on agenda item number 23, under approval of transfers. In regards to the rental of land and building, those are quite large figures. Can you specify a little more detail on what that's in regards to? It's
Yes, if you remember, a question came up earlier this evening about the legal settlement in the budget. That transfer was to pay the cost of the legal settlement that is currently due.
okay,
And I
so
did
it's a-
mention that in my explanation before, $250,000 now, $200,000 in the following school year, and $100,000 the year after that.
So on to mine. I actually have one more kindergartner. I'm finally done. So today, I had to come for registration. And first off, on the Board of Ed website, it did specify at the high school, it just said all day. It didn't say a start time. So thankfully, Mrs. Manzo from Sherman did notate that it's 8:30 in the morning. So I got here at 8:15, and literally within an hour, there were 50 people here. So first off, there were signs at the front door saying, go to the blue door. So now it was raining today. So we all gathered over by the blue door with a sign that said registration, we're waiting, what's going on? And then all of a sudden he comes out and goes, oh no, not that blue door, that blue door. So first off, if you guys are going to do registration, please make sure signage is proper next year. It's so important to parents, especially if you've never registered before or you don't know where you are. Secondly, thirdly was, and this has happened the last couple of times I've done registration and I didn't bring it up. I think you guys should have a microphone for the people up front because this is what they sound like. And they're sitting back here going, what? And with 50 or more people in an audience, and I'm sure by the end of the day it was a lot more people, you guys have to help them a little bit.
Well, I want to thank you for the suggestion. We're definitely trying to improve.
Yeah. They were really nice and very organized, but they need to.
No, thank you. Thank you.
That's it. I'm good. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Mr. President, are we able to give an estimate on that sidewalk? Or is that something we want to take back?
Can we take?
I'm looking to be as efficient as possible.
No, absolutely, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, we can do that. Did we do that on our own, or did we contract out for that?
We've contracted out for that.
Okay.
So we haven't even paid a bill yet,
I'm sure.
so I don't have the final figures.
Okay.
I'm just gonna go off the top of my head. I could be off, but if I remember on the list that we had down there, it was, right, for the sidewalks and the, doing patches and coating the the parking area? That was completely paid? Wow. No, it was patched. It was patched. It was patched. Believe me, it was patched. And then it was seal coated. And then all the sidewalks and all the blacktop up to the sidewalk was redone. That was redone. I don't think it's finished. Okay. It was rough. I'm going to say it was roughly, if I remember correctly, in the pricing in my head, I'm just kind of adding up it, between 20 and 25,000. So, okay. Was that? It was roughly. I mean, when the bill gets paid, we can give you the exact, but
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
roughly that. Yeah, that's fine. Again, as Mr. Gergen said, I'm just going over my head of what it was costing, and because I questioned the actual cost because I thought it was too cheap, to be honest with you, and to make sure we were doing the right thing, so we would not, as Mr. Gergen said, legal fees of coming back and somebody suing us because we didn't do it exactly what they wanted. They met. The board or members of the board, the administration met and met with Mr. Adace and went over everything, and he agreed to it. So, again, that's what we come up with. And we went back to the contractor who was doing the work, and I questioned the amount that we were paying for it, and I said, that sounds a little cheap, let's make sure we're doing the right thing. So, it was roughly between 20 and 25.
Thank you, Mr. Harms.
Thank you.
And now I'd like someone to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
That would be Mr. Harms, and second, Mr. Vita. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? We are enclosed, and we'll see you at the middle school auditorium. I'm sorry, we are adjourned. And I'm sorry, and we'll see you at the next board meeting on May 9th.
We're so used to that,